Hello and welcome to Journey into History, the Loki after show from the Comic Crush. As always, I am Paul. Probably, I mean, I could be anyone. We're working for the TVA now, Liz. This is Liz.
Hello.
Liz didn't get the memo and hasn't come on brand today, as you can see. Liz, come on, a Batman t-shirt. Surely you of all people own.
I do, but like
Where?
in a box transporting from London to Massachusetts. So yeah, I would be styling that look. Sadly, I am unable to.
I expected you to be wearing the full horns, to be honest. Like
I have those in a box on my way.
They are indeed.
Yeah,
yes,
they are. They are. You know that. If only.
I mean, I say this not having worn anything except a black t-shirt to this particular party. But guys, as I'm sure you can guess, we're here to discuss episode 1 of Loki, the new show on Disney Plus, spinning out of the event of Avengers Endgame. Is it End? Yeah, it would be. I'm so lost. I'm so confused. So, Liz, I mean, I know that this is the show for you. You've been waiting for this.
I've been waiting for this since 2011 when Thor came out. So, a solid 10 years.
I mean, I going into Thor and stuff, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know Hiddleston as an actor. I don't think a lot of us did.
Most people didn't, and it was kind of like just this crazy reaction to him in the role. Like, he became this unbelievably popular character off the back of the Thor film, but also off the back of Avengers. Like, his popularity as a character just kind of exploded. Like, there was this big sort of crazy Loki moment in 2013 at Comic-Con when, sort of as a surprise, Tom Hiddleston came out on stage in the full costume in character, and people went bananas, like absolutely nuts.
Apparently there was a moment off stage where he bumped into Chris Evans. He just looked at him and was like, dude. Like,
I know, because you've got all these like big, like, sort of chiseled mountains of perfection, like Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth, but like all the girls went like absolutely nuts over Hiddleston.
Okay, the Comic Crush is hereby copywriting the words "chiseled mountains of perfection" for a T-shirt to be used at a later date. Those will be available in the web store some point in 2022.
I'll trademark that.
Now, fast forward to now, they kill off Loki in Avengers Infinity War, but we get to see him again towards the sort of midpoint of Endgame. He escapes using the Tesseract and goes, we don't know where. We don't know where he went to, but now we do. So, like going into this, I imagine your expectations were high. We've had a bunch of trailers. Disney just seemingly did not want to stop bringing out promos for this particular show, which I actually started to find quite annoying because every day another promo coming out was more work for me to do on the website.
I mean, yeah, they were pretty relentless putting out trailers and teasers and and promoting it, which I think is great that they they really, really wanted to promote the show. So I'm okay with it. I didn't have to do any work on a website, as a result. So I was happy. Totally fine with it. But one thing I did think was that all of the teasers and trailers, as you kind of had continually pointed out whenever we talked about it, all seem to have come from that first episode. And in a way, I think they really kind of misled you from what to fully expect from this first episode, because as we'll get into later on, it was actually this really emotional episode. With a lot of comedy interspersed, but it did not, that the trailers did not prepare me to sort of, be feeling the way I was feeling at different points during the episode.
Sure, and in a strange move, what you actually got was something that with any other, or with a longer running show, you would probably get halfway through the season, which is the bottle episode where it's just made up of flashbacks. And that was quite a canny move on their part, because obviously there was a lot of scope to this episode, but the bulk of it was made up of Loki having to run through his greatest hits, to his great shame, as we kind of learn, which I wasn't expecting. And I don't think you probably
no, not in episode 1, but looking at the type of show it is, I think it was very smart to get that all into the first episode, because it tells you, everything you need to know going forward. This is as far as series go, the premise is on the one hand kind of very simple, but on the other hand very complicated. I think a lot of people, myself included, don't have tons of exposure to the TVA in comics. It was first introduced by Walter Simonson in his incredible Thor run, which is one of my favorite Thor runs, but it's not a concept that I see coming up again and again in modern Marvel comics. So you needed to be introduced to that concept, and you also needed to be caught up with Loki where he is at this point in time, which is not the Loki that we've kind of all spent time with over the course of post Avengers in Thor Ragnarok, in Thor Dark World, obviously, Endgame, Infinity War. So this is the Loki of 2012, who, at that point in his character history is he's still got all this burning resentment toward his parents, for deceiving him about his heritage. He's still got this massive grudge against Thor. He's just been taken down by the Avengers for the first time. And so the Loki we're meeting here is not, the Loki who's kind of matured into this almost anti-hero / hero, really, by the time you get to Infinity War. So it had a lot of work to do in introducing those concepts and where we're supposed to be at with this character. So I thought it managed to do that really well.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about that is he gets to see his transformation from the Loki of Avengers to the Loki of sort of Thor Ragnarok and beyond, but not to actually emotionally experience it on a tangible level. And I'm not sure how I'd feel if someone kind of gave me a kind of guide to where I'm going and showed me, all the places I'd gone wrong, which are numerous. It's an interesting thing to see, to take that character from that. But also to get a sense of this awesome power in the Marvel Universe now, because the TVA, as you point out, is not something we've ever seen before, at least in the MCU. And that really does kind of shake up the power dynamics of things like, as we see quite bluntly in the show, the Infinity Stones, and of course things like Asgard itself, the Nine Realms, and even Thanos. Everything suddenly seems a lot smaller. Especially when you learn that everything is kind of being dictated by, as they pointed out, the three space lizards. Now, I kind of liked this sudden irreverence to things like the Infinity Stones. And interestingly enough, we learn in this that there are more than 6, it appears. There's actually an awful lot of Infinity Stones, and it's not really made clear as if we're dealing with different versions of the 6 stones, or there are more than 6 stones. And I'm like that kind of poses some interesting questions, I'm
Wow,
sure.
yeah, for sure. Especially since, you know, we're being, you know, from WandaVision on, really, we're being slowly introduced to the concept of the multiverse, which it seems is going to play a very big role going forward. You know, we've got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we've got Spider-Man No Way Home. All of these upcoming projects seem to be products of the multiverse. And, you know, we were given a little soft, like, you know, intro to that in WandaVision with, you know, when it seemed like there was, you know, potentially a different version of Pietro coming through a multiverse. It didn't turn out to be the case, but there was, like, if you remember, one of the ads in WandaVision was for Nexus something or other. I can't remember what product it was, but here we get introduced to the concept of a Nexus event, which it happens in that great little Miss Minutes sort of 1960s style.
Which, I mean, what came to mind watching that, first of all, is Jurassic Park and Mr. DNA.
For me too.
Yeah. And also that voice, the voice of Miss Minutes, was in fact Tara Strong, who was the voice of Harley Quinn, I believe, in the original Batman animated.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I hope I'm correct about that. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. I'm sure people can leave a comment below and tell me if I am indeed getting it wrong. Obviously, please do that as you're subscribing and liking the video, guys. That would help us out immensely. Yeah. So also, there's a nod there in that sequence to the multiverse of madness, because, you know, Miss Minutes does say, "Oh, we could end up with multiversal madness if the variants are allowed to go unchecked." I find it hysterical that they're called variants.
Oh, I know. It is. Like, if you're a comics fan, there is something a little special about that.
The bane of any comic retailer's life is the variant.
Yeah. So yeah,
I say that good
sympathize with the TVA.
Yeah. But also, yes, you know, this power beyond, way beyond Thanos, beyond, you know, and I wonder if we're going to see, perhaps in the Eternals, some element of this multiversal war. I mean, if they're building towards this being the big arc of phases 4 and 5, then I would, you know, I'd be keen to see, you know, if we're going to get any trace of that. And of course, one has to think, if we're going to get the multiversal war, and we're going to get the Eternals, and we're going to get this, we're going to get that, then surely Galactus can only be round the corner.
Right, yeah, see now. That would be pretty incredible.
Yeah, because that I would like to kind of see. I'd love to see him done as, you know, to a reasonable degree, as the comics did him, you know, the giant creature sort of stalking the universe. That would be truly awesome. I can't forget, what is it Galactus is? Is a celestial? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Titans are people like Thanos. And then the Celestials are the kind of even bigger powers, right? I believe. I mean, I'm not up on my my kind of Marvel cosmic lore. I've got your copy of Infinity Gauntlet here, actually, Liz. I might have to hit that and start.
You should. It's great.
Start reading that. But yeah, it was an interesting episode to start with, because nothing really, you don't really go anywhere. You're entirely stuck in this bureaucratic office. And one thing I found interesting about that was it's like, how do you bring a god down to your level? Well, you make him go through, you know, a queue, or you know, you
take your ticket and all that, you know.
You introduce him to the bureaucracy of humanity.
Yeah, and I know, and this version of Loki is at his most sort of pompous and arrogant, and sort of he's on this quest for power, and he wants everyone to take him really seriously. That's kind of where we left off with him at in the first Avengers film, and this is like the opposite of what reaction he expects from anyone. Yeah. He expects, he's trying to go out and prove that he's, going to rule the universe. And instead he has to like take a ticket and wear like, a jumpsuit and do all this like degrading stuff, boring stuff that we all have do.
And he's the glorious purpose.
Which is the title of the episode.
Yeah, the title of the episode, yeah. And I think that it's great how they turn that concept on its head by the end. There is a thing I think in comics about reducing. I think the only way you can really make concepts like gods, especially in an age that is effectively godless, the only way you can make concepts like gods tangible to people and to the audience, I guess, is to reduce them down to petty squabbles and start kind of doing a bit of reductive thinking on how their behavior would be. And of course, if you say, okay, gods make man in their own image, does that also mean emotionally in their own image? Do you know what I mean? Like, so I think there's something in that. I don't know. I'm probably reading way too much into it. But...
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think there are actually, kind of different levels, going on as far as what they're trying to say about the character and about, who he thinks he is and then who he really, is at his core.
And of course, we're introduced to Mobius S. Mobius, the agent.
M. Mobius.
Yeah.
Mobius M. Mobius.
Oh, is it? Mobius M. Mobius? Right, I thought it was Mobius S. Mobius for some reason. So we're introduced to him, played by the forever laconic Owen Wilson. Has Owen Wilson ever played a guy who's tense? I don't think so. Like, I don't think he could ever do it.
Yeah, I don't think he would be capable. Like, he's just the breeziest man, like, in Hollywood. But it works so perfectly here because you've got Loki, who's just like all like high strung energy and like sort of it's like pure emotion, and then you've got him who's just like really chill, and is just like talking, and like I thought they had such incredible chemistry, like acting opposite each other. Like, is that something that I ever pictured? When back in 2011 or 2012 when. I was like, oh, if only, there was a Loki series. I want, would I have pictured him sitting across the table from Owen Wilson having a conversation? Like, no. But it worked weird. So great.
Sorry. It's so weird because Marvel used to be in the business of breaking new stars and taking unknowns or, mildly known actors and turning them into these sort of iconic characters. And I think the reason for that is it's easier to graft on the personality of Captain America, Loki, Thor onto fairly unknown actors because they don't have as much cachet or baggage with an audience. Therefore, you can imprint whatever you want onto them. Right?
It's like what they say about casting Batman and Superman,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel that Superman should always be an unknown and Batman should always be someone who's fairly well known. And they're now in the business of, in addition to that, they're now in the business of putting major movie stars in there, or very well-known movie stars. I mean, look, we've got Angelina Jolie coming up in The Eternals, Salma Hayek, you've got... Owen Wilson Owen Wilson on TV, like,
right?
For a start.
It's wild, yeah. I mean, it is that, it's kind of gone backwards in that way, like because the Marvel cinematic universe being what it is, like it's like everybody wants to be in it. Like, all the major, like A-list movie stars want to be part of it because it is the biggest thing going. I think they still do a good job of casting, like, lesser known actors in a lot of the roles, but less and less so, I guess. I mean, the only, if you look at the first Avengers film, the only sort of real big stars in that, going into it were Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, and to a certain degree, Samuel Jackson, just by virtue of the fact that he'd done so many. I think Samuel.
Yeah, I mean, he I would include him in that, but I was just thinking of the actual core team.
Yeah, sure, sure. I think Samuel Jackson, at the time he'd done that, because I always find it fascinating, had done something like 70 odd movies in less than 20 years. Like he really cranked it out.
He's prolific, and he was also, he's also a lot older than you kind of think he is. Like, he's in his 70s,
It's crazy, isn't it? Like he looks so well for a man in his 70s. But yeah, and then you bring in these unknowns like Hiddleston and Hemsworth and people like that. It's interesting to see that sort of baggage play out against, and they seem to have cast Owen Wilson as the type of person that he would normally play, with the exception of the fact that they put him in a suit, which I think normally he's in like a Bermuda shirt and
cargo pants or something. Yeah.
Just going, wow. They've got to give him at least one wow in this series at some point, right? Like, come on. But we also see this kind of thing. There's this killer stalking the TVA, or at least moving through history somewhere. Which at first, like, now we've got to address this, because once again we're being led down this path. So when we're in France in the 1800s, is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, Agent Mobius is asking this child who killed, who's killed all these people, and the kid points to a stained glass window with someone that kind of could be Mephisto. And you know what, Liz? I think actually they are now taking the piss. They actually kind of know that every series, apart from the more grounded ones like Falcon and Winter Soldier, we're going to be going Mephisto. And you know what? Mephisto isn't a character that I ever gave a monkeys about until.
See, I do actually love Mephisto as a character.
Scarlet Witch and Vision.
But yeah, no, I thought that was kind of hilarious too. What I think, and obviously that would have been filmed before people went, like Mephisto crazy during WandaVision. Right. But it is kind of hilarious that it's like, oh yeah, that looks like Mephisto. Well, I guess he's finally showed up. But also, what you could also take from that is it's even though it's this red devil looking character, it is a character who looks quite devilish with horns.
Yes.
So now, who's iconically wearing horns all the time?
Yeah, when we get to the end of the episode, near the end of the episode, we're told that of course that Mobius wants Loki to help him track down this variant, which, as it turns out, might be Loki himself. But I like, where from?
Well, yeah, I have a theory on that.
Okay,
why don't we get to that later? Once when we're wrapping things up, we'll kind of
cool. So it's just an interesting episode, because you're given a glimpse. It's like being given a glimpse at the true mechanics of where the story is from. Because we're told everything is done as dictated. Thanos, the snap, the Avengers going back in time, all of that was supposed to happen. Ultimately, I think for that to have weight, there has to be a purpose. Not glorious purpose, but there has to be a purpose somewhere for that to happen. So at some point, I think you're going to have to meet the TVA themselves, the
timekeepers.
The timekeepers. It's interesting that as well that in order to manage time in this way, they've gone down this bureaucratic route.
Right, and like the offices themselves are so like drab and kind of like 60s, 70s looking,
But the thing is, like bureaucracy is quite famously massively inefficient, which is why people are always rated against bureaucracy. You don't want any more bureaucracy or red tape because it is spectacularly inefficient. So why would you choose this facade? Like, I'm very curious about that. And it's weird because it's like, okay, so the background is drab and boring and bureaucratic, but out in the real world, people are making magic out of their fingers and flying, and it's just like,
one of my favorite moments of the episode was when Loki's like, well, I am sorry for this, and then and he can't do it. He can't use his magic.
And can't use the Tesseract either, which was interesting.
Can't use the Tesseract. Infinity Stones do not work there. That was like one of the other best moments of the episode when he breaks loose and is going to try and escape with the Tesseract, and he goes straight for this like poor sort of office schlub who we find out is named Casey, who it turns out has a collection of Infinity Stones in his desk.
He's a great guy, that great actor. I've seen him in a load of things, and he always plays the sort of quite schlubby character. In fact, I think he was in The Good Place as oh God, what was his name? Jason's best friend, the guy that starts off being the monk and actually is like the kind of criminal idiot loser from Florida.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
so he was like his best pal, who was constantly getting him in trouble or eventually killed. It was nice seeing him in this. His name escapes me though. There are some great actors in this though, apart from Hiddleston and Ian Wilson. You also get I hope I'm saying this right, Gugu Mbatha-Raw. And again, her name escapes me, but the sort of TVA agent who's really got it in like
he's great. I think the character is called Hunter B-15 or something like that. But of the like Minutemen, which I guess is what they're called, the TVA agents. She's quite an amusing, like sort of antagonist to Loki. All their interactions are very, very funny.
Historically, I always forget who the Minutemen were, but they do. There is a thing in American history about the Minutemen.
Yeah, that was like in, I want to say the Civil War, maybe. It's like, famously there were, but I don't think it has anything, correlation
but
here.
I'm kind of, it's one of those phrases that, and I guess because of Watchmen as well, that always has a resonance whenever you see it in comics and things. If anyone knows, leave a comment down below.
My memory of American history is terrible, especially when it comes to war. But
overall, a great first episode. Leaves you wanting more, definitely. It's interesting that I think one review put it as the first episode is Loki telling you how Loki it's going to be, or something like that. It's just telling you what the show's going to be about. It's not really kicking things off in any meaningful way. It's just kind of telling you what it's going to be about.
It's laying the foundations, it's laying the groundwork for what the series is going to be about. And what I got from that in a big way is that it's going to be a very character driven series. It's already in the first episode, we've kind of broken Loki down from like, this like vengeful, angry, power hungry character to crack that open, and he admits that actually he's kind of just like a scared little kid. Like he's he like, after he watches those those images of his him sending his mother to her death, essentially him banishing his father to Earth only for his father to die, and the fact that Thor, who he has this sort of burning contempt for, always thought the best of him and always believed in him, and he finding all this stuff out just kind of totally breaks down all his defenses, and he admits that no, I don't like hurting people. It's
a bit like our relationship, Liz, I think. Sorry. I mean, I can barely cope with the destructive force that came into my life 10 years ago.
Yes, well,
sorry, please continue.
Hopefully I've broken you down so that you're weeping in the corner.
Yeah. I wonder what that emotion was.
Yeah, but so basically, we've got this like confession, like this actual emotional progress from Loki to the point where he can actually admit that like, no, I yeah, like all his bravado is kind of false, and it's like a cover for the fact that he doesn't see himself as powerful, but he wants to project that, So I thought it was really great character work, on behalf of the writers.
Well, I've got a question for you. Do you think that's real? Do you think he genuinely means that, or he's just? I mean,
that is Loki
an opportunity for him. Yeah,
exactly. You can never. I mean, that's the brilliant thing about Loki. He is the god of mischief, but he's also the god of lies. He's the god of stories. These are all monikers that he has, and so Loki is like the best actor in the Marvel universe. He obviously I was like, oh, poor Loki, like he's so sad, and but as you say that, it's like, oh yeah, he could have just been totally pulling the wool over Owen Wilson's eyes. It's like you can never that's like the core concept of Loki is don't trust him. And as much as you might like him, don't trust him. And there are some there's a few lines about trust in the episode where Loki says, like, I think it's Mobius says, something about, you can trust me. And Loki says, well, trust is for children and dogs. And there's only one person you can trust. And, trust is a big word when it comes to Loki as a character. So I like that they got that in there.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot more stuff to kind of play with as the episodes roll on. I'm very excited about next week. I'll be interested to see if it's as longer episode, because we got like nearly an hour this week. But I guess we'll find out Wednesday. Is it still on like really early in the morning there? Are you still getting like the really early?
Yeah, well, so technically it airs at like midnight in West Coast time. Right. So that's for me on the East Coast. That's 3 a.m. So obviously I stayed up till 3 a.m. to watch it.
Here we have to wait till like 8 a.m. I think. Like,
right.
That's like not that I'd be staying up till, but I guess actually that's right. Yeah, there's a 5-hour difference, right? So 8 a.m. is I guess 3 a.m. your time. Yeah, I mean. It's so weird because I get up really early in the morning, so it's quite often there's like a good hour and a half I get to watch it. I'm sitting there kind of just staving off breakfast until it comes on. But a good episode, a lot of interesting stuff. I'm keen to hear more about this sort of murderous variant and see if we're going to get more of that next week.
Would you like to hear my theory on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, we're told by, Mobius at the end of the episode, well, the reason we want your help, Loki, is because the variant we're hunting is you. Now, another thing, if you're only familiar with the Loki from the films, Loki as a character in the comics has come in many forms. He is a shapeshifter, so he's able to change his form, and does so pretty often. There was a big to do. So, some of the most famous guises of Loki are, when he comes in the form of like Kid Loki is a very famous one that was, introduced in technically, I think, in the Matt Fraction Thor and the Kieran Gillen Thor, but also the most famously in Journey into Mystery, that run that I'm obsessed with. There is like sort of the classic, sort of old looking Loki, who's like, got the big horns and, kind of looks like an old man, even though he's technically Thor's younger brother. He's come as a bird, he's come as a wolf, like, he can change to all shapes. But the version of Loki that I very highly suspect that we are hunting is Lady Loki.
Okay.
So we see this hooded figure at the end of the episode, which to me seems very deliberate, because we can't see, the shape of the person, their face, anything like that. And we know that an actress has been cast, and they have not confirmed who she's going to play, but it's like, to my mind, that is who I expect to see under the hood. So Lady Loki.
Who's the actress that's been cast? Do you know?
I believe her name's Sophia DiMartino. I could be wrong about the last name. But my suspicion, is, and it also has to do with some news that came out this week. They kind of, it just in, somebody noticed on Loki's, like profile, his TVA profile, from when they, arrest him, that his gender is listed as fluid. So, and it made the headlines and everything. Yes, Loki is, confirmed as gender fluid.
Right.
And, Hiddleston himself commented on it and said, yeah, I think that's great that they've confirmed that, because that's something I've known about the character, for as long as I played the part. Which of course makes perfect sense, because Loki, has spent time as a woman. And that version of Loki in the comics is, a very devious and, evil incarnation of the character. Very conniving and scheming. So it would make a lot of sense for that to be the variant that is out there causing trouble.
Be honest with me. They modeled that version on you, didn't they?
I have the outfit.
Of course you do. Because why wouldn't you?
That was one of my proudest moments. Like that was like, I did the full Lady Loki cosplay, and it's amazing.
It was a good cosplay. It was really good. I think we should leave it there, because always leave wanting more. Hopefully you guys will come back for next week. We hope you've enjoyed this. Do check out the comiccrush.com website. Do check out the web shop at the moment, because there is a massive sale going on, so you can pick yourself up some comics. No Loki comics though, I'm really sorry. But yeah, plenty of comics for you to kind of sort through there. Follow us on Twitter at The Comic Crush, on Instagram also at The Comic Crush. You can follow Liz on Twitter at Liz C. Jordan. You can check out her website, lizcjordan.com. You can check out the Patreon, which I would love you to. Thank you very much. I do have to say a quick hello. I don't have his name in front of me, but we did get a new patron the other day, Mark. Thank you very much for joining the patron. He's one of our £2 patrons. I really appreciate you signing up, Mark. Thank you so much. We would love to get the subscribers up on this show, so please do subscribe if you enjoy it. We'll be back here every Wednesday for the next. We think it's going to be 6 episodes. Is that right, Liz?
I believe that's right.
So for the next 5 weeks, we'll be back.
At least.
And then we'll be back with Crushing Comics. That will resume its first series. Just then, we only got the first 3 episodes of that in. Also, I was speaking to a buddy of mine yesterday, Hemon. Hello, Hemon, if you are watching this. He's got some questions for you, Liz, about X-Men.
Sure,
so he wants to quiz Liz on X-Men because he's been doing a big X-Men reread. He wants to drop some questions in the comments. So he's either going to do that once Crushing Comics comes back, or perhaps during this run. So yeah, be prepared to answer some questions. We will be back with some bonus material for the Patreon quite soon. Hopefully next week we'll be able to kind of do a quick sort of extra episode for you guys. Sorry, been a bit slack lately. Been a lot going on in our sort of personal lives, and we haven't really had time to do it. But thank you for watching. Thanks for listening to us talky about Loki. Liz's favorite comic character, so you know you're going to be getting good episodes week on week. Liz, thank you very much for joining me once again on this particular adventure.
Any excuse to talk about Loki, I'll take it.
But guys, thank you. We'll catch you next time on The Crush. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.